Tonight, neighbors are rattled after a fire destroys a North York apartment unit.
I was shocked, actually. I haven't really been around many fires before, so like seeing it and it being very close to my apartment was very nerve-wracking.
A woman found unconscious in the unit was rushed to hospital with life-threatening injuries. We have the latest on this afternoon's 3-alarm blaze.
It's incredibly important for the community to keep Ontario Science Centre here because they come from different countries, they have lots of children and nowhere to go.
Plus, the impact of losing a major attraction. We're in Thorncliffe Park tonight, gathering reaction to today's new details about how much money the Ford government says will be saved by moving the Science Centre to Ontario Place.
The arranged buyers would then hold on to the vehicle for a period of time and then report the vehicle stolen.
And car theft crackdown. How a single tip earlier this year drove Peel Police to launch a complex investigation that led to the recovery of more than $1 million worth of stolen vehicles. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Chris Glover. We're starting tonight at the scene of this afternoon's 3-alarm blaze at a North York apartment building. The fire ripped through a unit on the 5th floor, and tonight a woman is clinging to life in hospital after she was found unconscious in that unit. Patrick Swadden joins us live from the scene. Hey there, Patrick. Walk us through what happened here.
Well, Chris, Toronto Fire Services say that they were called here at around 2:30 p.m. to this apartment complex behind me, just off York Mills Avenue. And now, if you actually look up, it's a little bit dark right now, but if you look up behind me to the south end of this building up there on the 5th floor, there is a unit on the corner that has just been completely destroyed by this fire. And now that is where the fire department arrived earlier this afternoon and found a woman unconscious with vital signs absent.
This was the scene earlier today as a 3-alarm fire tore through a 5th-story unit at this North York apartment complex. Deputy Fire Chief Larry Coco says when crews finally entered the unit, they discovered an unconscious woman, quickly transporting her to awaiting paramedics.
We've been informed that the occupant has suffered critical injuries, and Toronto Paramedic Services transported the occupant to local hospital.
Fire services were able to knock down the blaze by 4 p.m., saying only one other person suffered minor injuries from the fire, but it still has a number of residents rattled.
I was shocked, actually. I haven't really been around many fires before, so like seeing it and it being very close to my apartment was very nerve-wracking.
Katie Tiffany lives 1 floor up from the site of the blaze. She was at work during the fire, but happy to learn her husband and daughter weren't in the apartment.
It still makes me nervous, especially because I have a cat up there. We know a lot of people in the building, so it was very scary to find out. I ended up calling a lot of people to find out if they were okay.
After the initial evacuation, 5th floor residents huddled in nearby shelter buses and the lobby to keep warm as crews assessed for smoke and water damage. Fire services say they don't know yet if the unit had a working smoke detector, but are reminding residents the best thing to do is regularly check to make sure theirs are working.
The importance of a working smoke alarm and detection is so vital for occupants to be made aware of an incipient fire.
Now, Chris, Toronto Fire Services say that there's going to be a comprehensive investigation to determine the origin, the cause, the circumstances of this fire. That's going to be in collaboration with the Ontario Office of the Fire Marshal. Now, unfortunately, we haven't heard any update as to the condition of the woman that was sent to hospital with critical conditions. But I had a conversation earlier with Deputy Fire Chief Larry Coco, and he says with the exception of one of those units on the 5th floor, all of the other residents will be able to return to their homes tonight. Chris?
Still some scary moments for all of those residents. Patrick Swadden, thank you for the latest. He's live tonight in North York. More developing news tonight out of Etobicoke, where a man is facing multiple dangerous driving charges after a series of incidents left a woman and a police officer injured and multiple cruisers damaged. This is a look at the scene where the man was arrested at a gas station on Albion Road near Highway 27. The pursuit began when police were called for a fail-to-remain crash on Humber College Boulevard. As officers were making their way to the scene, they received another call about a woman that was pushed or fell out of a moving car. Here's more from Toronto Police.
Officers arrived on scene and the woman was transported to hospital with very serious injuries. We are still investigating the circumstances surrounding how this woman fell from the vehicle, whether she was pushed or she fell or she jumped on her own. That is still being investigated.
The driver again fled the scene, and police tracked him to a nearby gas station. When officers moved in to arrest him, police say he drove into several cruisers, causing damage, and an officer suffered a serious hand injury. Police are asking anyone with dash cam footage to contact them. It was another big day in provincial politics. The Ford government's long-awaited business case on moving the Science Centre to Ontario Place finds it'll save the province more than $250 million over 50 years. It says the Science Centre is aging and needs costly fixes. Plus, it'll also need to be closed at some point for repairs. The CEO of Infrastructure Ontario says, given all that, the savings could actually end up being much more.
That closure is estimated to be at 1 year in the business case. It is equally true to say that it is possible for that duration of the closure of the facility to be much, much longer, 3 years or more, given the sheer scope of the repairs that are required.
Now, the business case does not take into account the cost of refurbishing the Science Centre's white pods and the Cinesphere at Ontario Place. Officials today saying that's because it's under another government budget. Still, the leader of the NDP today called the $250 million figure a wild guesstimate.
This business case is nothing more than just a 78-page shell game. Just to justify this government scheme to build a luxury spa at Ontario Place.
Meanwhile, the city and the province has said they're looking at keeping some type of science programming at the current site, but the NDP argued again today it's worth the investment to spend the money on repairing the current site and keeping the Science Centre in the community where it is. And all that drama down at Queen's Park certainly has a lot of people in Thorncliffe Park talking tonight. Clara Pasica picks up that part of our coverage.
Najib Siddiqui's family lives near the Science Centre. They often have an annual pass to enjoy its programming. He says even if the community gets some science-specific content in its place, it's the wrong move.
Sometimes a few $1 million, if at all, shouldn't be always, the deciding factor, because there's all these other values that are being added by having the Science Centre in its place.
Families like these ones say having the attraction in their neighborhood makes it more accessible for them, meaning they don't have to trek downtown to enjoy it.
Here is close to my home. Sometimes my families went to Science Center. Now I'm sad.
It's incredibly important for the community to keep Ontario Science Centre here because they come from different countries, they have lots of children and nowhere to go.
Amid the space's uncertainty, the city councillor in the area is optimistic.
For me, it's, sometimes when things are a little bit unclear, it provides more opportunity.
Opportunities that residents hope they'll get answers for soon. Clara Pasica, CBC News, Toronto.
Already feeling a bit less biting tonight, -2 right now, heading towards that anticipated warm-up tomorrow. Colette Kennedy is tracking the weather forecast. Colette, the warmth coming our way is a bit of a break from this icy cold and snow squalls that we've been seeing this week, hey?
Yes, we've certainly been into this pattern of active weather with some of the lake effect snows, but cold air as well. And the jet stream kind of tells that tale. You see that trough and that cold air allowed to sink in across the Great Lakes. In fact, some of it all the way down to the panhandle of Florida, where they're looking at frost advisories and warnings through there. So crops in danger. They'll rebound, though, in a few days here. And then this trough to the west as the next system is developing. But the good news in here is look at the jet stream pattern as we go into Thursday. And generally, you have the colder air to the north of it and to the south where you see milder temperatures. So that's your clue. Tomorrow, much milder. Then we go somewhat more zonal across the Great Lakes, meaning the next system will be pulled along that track our way, but we'll probably see kind of mixed precipitation as the temperatures hover at night around the freezing mark. So we get a one-day real warm up, and then after that, things are at least not as cold as they've been. So we have still seen through the evening hours some of that weather a little nastier from about Cobourg, really east of Cobourg on towards Belleville and Kingston. Improvements there, improvements everywhere as the winds back off tomorrow, and we actually get some sun mixing in at times with the cloud cover before that next system arrives. So tonight, our temperature nearly steady here around -1, and then there it is, Chris, 8 degrees for tomorrow, and we'll talk about those next systems coming our way when I come back.
Do we have to? All right, Colette, we'll talk to you again in just a few minutes. So tomorrow will be warm, but these cold evenings often have people thinking about the city's most vulnerable. And that was, of course, the focus at the Toronto Shelter Network's annual conference today. Mayor Olivia Chow was there to talk about what her administration has done to deal with the city's homelessness crisis and to hear from service providers about how to improve the response. But as Dale Manukduk reports, the mayor says a lot of what she can do next depends on money from the federal government.
And I've been coming to this food bank for the past since 2013.
Before arriving at the Toronto Shelter Network conference, Mayor Olivia Chow heard this on CBC's Metro Morning, a story about a food bank client turned volunteer who now helps run programming, including karaoke.
What's your #1 hit? Well, I love singing Lean on Me.
Lean on me when you're not strong.
Chow brought that same energy to a room full of people dedicated to helping Toronto's vulnerable.
There's something about Lean on Me that captures how we need to approach working on this, help giving people hope of finding shelter, finding housing.
The mayor rattled off the things the city has done since coming into office, including opening up emergency shelter spaces for refugees, opening a 24/7 respite center, and reducing the warming center temperature threshold. But Toronto's math is off, say those on the front lines.
Ultimately, there's only just under 200 spots available at the warming centers, and we know that there's hundreds and hundreds of people who are sleeping rough outside.
We have 11,000 people that are homeless. 200 plus people are turned away every night. We have over 5,000 people that are part of that 11,000 are refugees. The planes keep landing, the numbers keep growing, and we keep adding beds, and we're not able to keep up.
The mayor had ideas to share, getting the feds to help out on 3 things, including building housing and
partner with us so that we can have a good system, a good program for the refugees. Number 3, immediately provide the housing benefits.
Back at the municipal level, this reverend says Toronto can do more. There are people staying outside St. Stephen in the Fields Church, braving the cold. More than half the encampment was cleared last Friday. The city has since fenced off the garden area and laid large concrete blocks down. It says 9 people accepted space in shelter hotels.
It's ridiculous that the only way that you can get a good indoor space, a safe indoor space, is to be in an encampment on the day that it's being cleared.
The Reverend, the mayor, and those at the conference all agree that housing is the long-term solution. In the short term, Hellwig says Toronto should meet people where they're at. If they choose to sleep outside, then the city should support them there. Until then, they can keep leaning on her and the church. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
We recently brought you a story about Israeli-Canadian Eran Brodach. His brother's wife and 3 children were kidnapped by Hamas on October 7th and brought to Gaza. Brodach is back in Toronto tonight after a brief trip to Israel, where he got to see his brother's family again following their release over the weekend.
They looked terrible. They were extremely thin. They were wearing the same clothes that they were kidnapped in, but they were talking, they were functioning. For us, it was extreme joy, but also mixed with a lot of pain. First, the pain of seeing them in a situation which was, as expected, very far from ideal. They had been through an incredibly tough time. And also knowing that, we're lucky, but not everyone is lucky. There's still hostages there.
The ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is set to expire tomorrow. Israel says it'll extend the truce as long as Hamas continues to release hostages. Returning now with a complicated auto theft investigation that played out across the GTA. Police in Peel taking the lead today to announce officers recovered more than $1 million worth of stolen cars, leaving 12 people facing charges for their alleged involvement in the fraud ring. And it's how the accused allegedly used the insurance industry that's catching attention. Greg Ross has the details.
After receiving a tip earlier this year, Peel Police launched Project Memphis, a complex investigation focused on a group of people accused of running an auto theft and insurance fraud ring.
The investigation identified a group of individuals that were operating within the GTA.
Police say the group sourced a number of stolen vehicles and then illegally changed the vehicle identification numbers, or VIN, on those cars.
Revinning involves either using cloned VINs from other vehicles or fictitious VINs and placing them over the real VIN of a motor vehicle and then registering it through the ministry.
Police say they would then take those vehicles and sell them to used car dealerships. But this was only the beginning of the scam. According to police, they would then have someone else involved in the fraud ring go back to the dealership and repurchase the vehicle.
The arranged buyers would then hold on to the vehicle for a period of time and then report the vehicle stolen.
That allowed them to collect insurance money on those cars. Police say they would then change the VIN again and repeat the entire process.
We did seize a number of cars that were revinned 3 times and sold and trafficked on 3 separate transactions, that same car.
In all, police recovered 9 stolen vehicles used in this fraud ring, worth about $1.2 million.
Manufactured vehicles such as Dodge Rams, Jeep Wranglers. We also recovered BMWs, Range Rovers, and a Bentley.
Police arrested 12 people from around the GTA. They say the majority of them had an employment history in the automotive industry or the automotive finance industry. They're now facing a total of 81 charges,
including trafficking in property obtained by crime, possession of property obtained by crime, fraud-related offenses, and conspiracy to commit.
In addition to the 9 vehicles recovered, police say they prevented about $350,000 worth of insurance fraud. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
All right, let's get back to you, Colette, and that warm-up coming our way tomorrow. People will certainly notice it, but will they like it? I guess that's the question.
Yeah, it really depends what you're looking for, Chris. I know there are many folks who are very happy about the snow into some of the snowbelt areas and ski hills. So winter sport folks, very, very happy. But if you like it a little milder, okay, well, tomorrow's the day for you as temperatures will be turning around. The big guy returns Thursday. Yes, Chris will be back Thursday night, but I'm talking about the sun. Now, mixed with some cloud cover there at times, that we will be contending with that, but at least we'll see some sun shine again. And then the next round of systems will start to push in, really having an impact Friday, Saturday, even into early Sunday, and we'll see some mixed precip there. So let's get into it through towards tomorrow morning as the winds back off, the lake effect snow machines die off, and we will actually see some of that sun breaking through the cloud deck. Notice that. 5 p.m., so the sun will have set by then, and it's only then that we'll see certain areas like southwestern Ontario fill back in as that next system is approaching. Mild enough that Thursday night into Friday morning, this is rain, but then watch as I pull this forward, tracking very close as it comes across the lower Great Lakes and just putting us into the cooler sector there through the GTA. So it would be very light, wet snow, and those temperatures just mild enough that I don't expect it to stick around. At times, I do think it's going to mix in with some of those showers, but it's just going to be a nuisance for a few days with some wet roadways that we'll deal with. Overnight temperatures tonight, 0 to -2, but feeling until those winds back off by tomorrow morning like -8. And then kind of similar, although again, this is the middle of the night with that wind chill of -7. By the time you get to tomorrow morning, it's not going to feel too bad, especially if you compare it to the last 2 mornings in terms of how cold it's been, how chilly. So 8 degrees tomorrow afternoon, looking great. I know it looks like a rain out or wet snow rain mix all through the period. I do think by Sunday morning this will be letting up, and only a slim chance actually into Monday, Chris.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Colette. And we've got a good one coming your way next. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Finally, tonight, a Canadian children's show is getting a huge second act on social media. CBC Television's Nanaland aired way back in 1999, but old clips of the show have resurfaced in a big way, and they've gone viral on TikTok, gaining millions of views. Hayden Waters sat down with the co-creators about the renewed worldwide excitement.
Who's that wonderful Hayden? Could he be any cuter? Who's that wonderful girl? Oh, look, here comes the suitor.
I'm still, to this day, it's been a month, and I am still every day floored, because now I think the hashtag Nanaland, just the hashtag Nanaland on TikTok has been seen 93 million times.
That wonderful girl, could she be any cuter?
I think why they loved it is because Nana's such a hype woman, right? She's hyping her granddaughter. Everything exists for her, and when the meme hit, because that's what the memes were about, is like support and love, and the song just it really took off. It really touched people's hearts.
Oh, look, here comes the suitor, which is me.
Oh, wow. I'm so excited. It feels so good. Like, it's just so validating and affirming of what we thought was an amazing show.
Who's that beautiful girl?
This has been a real learning curve for me and a real eye-opener to sort of see the power, one, of a very lasting message of what Nanaland is, and finding its new audience. Because it is really kitschy and it's really interesting, and it's, that feeling of being supported and loved. And I think that's that universal message. I think that's why people are, specifically in a time like now where the world kind of is not the greatest. The constant news cycle of horribleness, there's something warm and wonderful, and I think that's the reason for the shift. And the fact that it's so out there on TikTok.
Okay, Nana, do you have any message that you want to share with everyone now that a lot of people have seen this video or heard you singing?
I do. Thank you so much for the love. Thank you so much. And I want to tell you, you are all so wonderful.
Love that. Love it when the past meets the present like that. And that is our show for you. Thanks for watching.